for finding the intercept. If you guys remember from before, the intercepts is where the graph. So here, if we look here, it's where the graph. This is our graph. The parabola right here is our graph. It's where the graph intercepts the axis. For example, for this particular example, there is 3 intercepts. There is 2 x-intercepts, and there's one right here, y-intercepts. We're not going to talk about the y-intercepts right now, but we're going to talk about the x-intercepts. These are the x-intercepts right here. The x-intercepts is important because we use it to graph. We use it to graph a parabola, and in the next section, you will see how this is used to graph a parabola. So the concept of zeros is very, very, very important. Now, how can not every function, before we move into the concept of zeros, not every function has zeros. And here's our 3 examples of that. For example, in example A right here, we have a function that has 2 zeros because the graph intercepts at these 2 points. The parabola intercepts the x-axis at these 2 points, and these are our 2 zeros. And here, if we look, we have only 1 0, which is right here. And since this graph never intercepts the x-axis, so we don't have any zeros. So these are 3 examples right here of zeros in a function. Now, it's a really easy concept because you can just look at the graph. If you have the graph, you can just look at the graph and then identify the zeros. Otherwise, if we don't have the graph, then we have to graph it to identify the zeros. We have to graph the equation to be able to identify the zeros. So in this example right here, when for this parabola, the zeros are -1, and the second 0 is 2. So the zeros here are -1 and 2. So these are the zeros for this function. Now we want to check if this is true or not. So let's go ahead and try to check that. So we said y equal x squared minus x minus 2. So if we put -1 in here, we should get a 0. So let's go ahead and check that. -1 squared minus, and it's a -1. X is negative -1, and then -2. Now here minus is a plus, and -1 squared is 1. So 1 plus 1 minus 2. 1 plus 1 is 2, and 2 minus 2 is 0. So we get a 0. If we do the same thing for the 2, we should get 0. And let's try it. 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 2 is positive 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So zeros, again, is where the parabola intersects the graph at 2 points. The first one is the -1, and the second one is the 2. Now here, the graph only intercepts at 1 point, which is +1, and here it never intersects, so there's no zeros here. This parabola doesn't have any zeros.